Hi, welcome to Mindful Leadership. I'm Rabia Billings. This week's discussion is the South African President, Cyril Ramaphosa. Cyril Ramaphosa is an example of a president doing things right during the COVID crisis, so much so that the WHO has commended South Africa on the way that they have been handling the crisis. Cyril Ramaphosa has won the support of people from all walks of life in South Africa during this period, so much so that it doesn't matter where you look, Facebook or Twitter, Mzansi just can't get enough of him. In some pictures, they have depicted him as a superhero. Today, I interview Elvira LABANS. Elvira is a South African working in Saudi Arabia, and she has recently been repatriated and will talk us through her experience. And thank you, Elvira, for joining us for this interview. My first question to you, Elvira, is what do you think of the way the South African government has been dealing with the COVID-19 crisis?
I think the government is doing the right thing. I am very impressed with my leader, Cyril Ramaphosa, in terms of how he has managed this process from a national level. I'm happy that he's putting people ahead of profit. I think the strategy that's being applied in terms of lockdown and try and stop further spread of the virus in a very efficient and hard lockdown way will help us in the long way. So I'm very impressed. I'm happy that the government is putting our health as a priority. And yes, I'm quite comfortable and happy with the decisions that are made in terms of how we're going to manage COVID-19 going forward. It's not a perfect process, and there are things that the government has to deal with that they inherited from the previous government, like our squatter camps. But there are things happening in that domain that gives one hope that this thing will be contained.
Thank you. As an expat, what was your experience with the South African embassy with regards to repatriation of its people?
Okay, I was part of the home away from home group and also the JEDDAH CONSULATE group. I think they really did a lot to try and feed us with the right information, first of all. They were very open and transparent and contactable with sharing information, what we need to do, etc. What I guess I must say, they were very supportive, really. You would phone and they would answer and they would be so patient with us, also trying to manage our anxiety in the process. What I did find a bit disappointing was the permit issue. You know, the window to have that permit processed was not enough. It was less than 24 hours
yes,
to get the right paperwork in place. And I think that contributed to a lot of people being anxious about this process. I think there could have been a better communication between our government, the consulate, and maybe the Saudi government, but we know how that works, yeah? I appreciate that. But I think the time frame was not enough. More people could have been on that flight, and I was quite fortunate to be on that first flight out. But the anxiety to get to Jeddah was stressful. And I can just imagine how people with kids and families felt during that process. I was lucky that I'm just a single person, and we were 7 women, that we were fortunate enough to get through that. But in terms of how the South African consulate helped us, I think they did what they could, and they did it very well under the circumstances. I was very impressed with how when we arrived at Jeddah airport, it was such a relief when you get into the airport and the face that you see is a South African face. It was like, somebody that speaks my language, that's going to help me get through to the airplane, to the plane. So they would walk us in from the gate, from entering the airport, stand with us while we check in, up until where we would go through to customs, and that is when they would back off. So that just made it feel like, okay, my mense has met me.
Oh, that's an amazing feeling. I know the feeling when you're
Yeah,
like, this my mentor. It doesn't matter who it is, but if it's
yeah,
someone from home, it's somebody from home, you know. So
yes, yes.
that's an excellent point. Okay, can you tell us about your experience once you arrived home? What is the repatriation system when you just got off the airport? I mean, airplane. When you got off the airplane, what
Yeah.
happened to you?
I was very uncertain what to expect, but I walk away from that process feeling proudly South African. This process was managed so tightly and so perfect in my mind. So the plane landed, we couldn't get off, we had to wait until the South African task force or whoever they were got on board. So they counted all of us, they took our temperature, and we had to fill out forms. Yes? And only at that point could we get off. We got off the plane, went through to passport control, and made a U-turn at passport control and came back out. So there was no way that we could interact with anybody else at the airport. It was so contained that if anybody had the disease or were affected by it, that it would only be amongst us. It was very contained. Yeah. So we passed passport control into vans that was lining up waiting for us just to get in. You know, very efficient, right? 7 people getting to the bus, move to the next group. And then once we were loaded, we went back to the plane. By the time we got to the plane, all our luggage was standing outside.
Wow.
So we were then asked to get...
You were packed and ready to go.
Yes, no, we just had to go and pick up our luggage, put it into the van, and then we had to wait for all the other vans. And then under police escort, we were then taken to our different locations. We didn't know where we were going, but that went very smooth. So we arrived at our locations for quarantine, and even that process was very meticulous, step by step. You could get out of your van, open the door, but not walk too far from your van. So they would check us in one van at a time. Yeah. So you would put your luggage in front of the hotel reception, put your passport to make sure that you are a South African citizen, and then you get called in. You would stand on a certain area, and they would sanitize you from the top of your head to the soles of your feet, Maboki. Even your luggage, you know, you had to lift up your luggage, sanitized everything. And it all happened one by one. So I think that's the best way to prevent cross-contamination. Yeah, so once you were sanitized, you signed in, you got your card. That whole process took maybe 5 minutes.
Okay.
And then
that's really thorough. That's thorough. And what did it make you feel in terms of safety? Did you feel safe? Did you feel like taken care of? What was your feelings?
I felt a bit shocked in terms of, I didn't see this in Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
They are so different level of how things are done. And then when I got home to see that this thing is being managed so tightly, it made me feel good that this thing is under control. Whoever made this decision is doing the right thing. They're trying to contain it. It seems like it's very well organized and well planned. But it also made me worry in terms of what am I going to see when I get home? Because I haven't been home, I haven't been out to the mall, I haven't been out to Spa. Yeah. And it made me worry about this is a serious thing.
Yes. So what message would you have for our president or other people from South Africa regarding your experiences, and what do you feel now regarding this whole crisis?
I think, first of all, I am proudly South African. I think if I compare my South African leader, Mr. Ramaphosa, to what I see how other leaders are handling it in terms of Italy, in terms of America, is ek bly ek is Ramaphosa se dogter. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
I think my words to Mr. Ramaphosa is that thank you, sir. Thank you for taking our well-being as your first priority. I know it's not going to be an easy road in terms of the economy, etc. But I have every faith and every belief that who he is and the leadership that supports him, we're going to make this work. And I certainly, as a South African, would encourage fellow South Africans, let's listen, let's do this right. We still have a way to go, but I think we have the ability, despite of what happened in the past, to pull together as a nation and make this work for all of us. We can come out of this way better than what we went in. This situation is, I believe so. The situation is calling on us to be so much more compassionate. It's calling on us to draw on skills that we forgot we had. You know, so I think the economy is going to change. The way that we do business is going to change, and we have to really look at what it is that we can do internally to support our economy so that we can become better than what we were. The one thing that I'm very proud of that came out of the whole COVID thing is that the plight of the poor people are really being highlighted now. You know, I think in Cape Town it was a matter of days where they could give temporary accommodation to the people on the street. There are now talks about building temporary housing. And those are the people that really needs our support. So if there's one thing that comes out of this economy that I am very proud of, is that we're going to really see a lift in our poverty rate.
Thank you so much. It's very, very, very powerful testament.
Not a lift in our poverty rate, a decrease in our poverty rate.
A decrease in our poverty rate. It's a very powerful testament and statement. Thank you so much, Elvira. And thank you so much for agreeing to this interview and taking much of your time. I know we're still busy working. We still have our classes and our final grades to do. But thank you so much for taking your time out and doing this interview. Bye, donkey.
No, you're more than welcome. I must say one thing. The first thing I'm going to buy when I get to Cape Town is biltong.
Eat a piece for me, please. Eat one piece for me and say, Raps, this one is for you, baby. Because I'm missing biltong a lot.
Yeah.
I even wanted to start making my own biltong. But bye, donkey. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And have a beautiful day further. And